what is the transfiguration of Jesus? It's a weird word, transfiguration. And actually, it's an unnecessarily weird word. The word in the Greek is a word that you already probably know. It's metamorphosis. And metamorphosis means to change physically or to change in appearance. Meta, change, morph, meaning shape or appearance. And that's all that transfiguration means, is to change, to look different. And it comes from the story of Jesus' transfiguration, a time when he changed to look different before his disciples. And we already sort of read the story this morning in our call to worship, but we're going to read it again here from Mark 9, verses 2 through 8. Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up a high mountain by themselves to be alone. He was transfigured. He was changed in appearance in front of them. How was he changed in appearance? His clothes became dazzling, extremely white as no launderer on earth could whiten them. Like bleach white, like whiter than bleach white. Elijah appeared to them with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it's good for us to be here. Let's set up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," because he did not know what to say since they were terrified. A cloud appeared, overshadowing them, and a voice came from the cloud, "This is my beloved son, listen to him." And suddenly looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them except for Jesus. It's a weird story. It's a weird story. Some kind of meeting with Moses and Elijah happened, and they looked different. Jesus himself was vibrant and radiant. Light was emanating from him. He was transfigured to be somewhat glorious in appearance. And Peter got really awkward. It actually says he was terrified. And I find that to be an interesting detail when you look in the scriptures and you see encounters that humans have with divine beings. Maybe they have a vision of Yahweh himself, or they have a vision of an angel, or maybe the case of Isaiah, chapter 6. He has a vision of the throne room of God with the cherubim and the Lord on the throne. And fear sets in, and it's a fear of the glory of God. It's a recognition. You think of our liturgy, it's this adoration, this seeing how great and majestic and glorious God is, and then, like in our confession time, looking to who you are and realizing that we're nothing in comparison to God, that we're nothing before him. And it's a fear because of who we are as humans, in our sinfulness, in our weakness, in our finiteness, that we would come before this all-powerful being. And that's why people are afraid when they see angels. And so here, there's some kind of fear because of Moses, Elijah, and Jesus and the way that they appear. Now, it's funny because everybody likes to joke about how awkward Peter was, like he was just babbling nonsense. It actually wasn't nonsense. He was acting a little weird because he was scared, but it's not nonsense. When he said, "Hey, let me set up, these buildings for Moses and for Elijah and for Jesus," it's because when divine beings come to earth, humans build them temples. When the presence of the Almighty or the presence of the divine is on the earth, in the ancient world, they build temples for them. And the temple of the Spirit of Yahweh was seen to reside in the temple in Jerusalem. And so when the Spirit of God came to rest in Jesus, and also the glory of God on Moses and Elijah, faced with these divine beings, Peter said, "Hey, we're going to need some temples here." And so he wanted to set up these shelters or these little temples for them. And obviously he didn't do that as we read the story. It's interesting, Luke adds a detail in Luke 9:31. He says that Moses and Elijah appeared in glory. He doesn't just say that they appeared talking to Jesus. But it's not just Jesus radiating the glory of God, But wherever Moses and Elijah have come from, which would, spoiler, they're long gone from the earth. So they were in the presence of God. And so where they've come from in the presence of God, they are too emulating the glory of God. Look at 2 Peter 1:17 and 18. This is an interesting passage because Peter was here on the mountain of transfiguration. He saw Jesus change. And so then in 2 Peter, he reflects on this, saying that Jesus received honor and glory from God the Father when the voice came to him from the majestic glory, saying, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." We ourselves heard this voice when it came from heaven, while we were with him on the holy mountain. This is Peter reflecting on the transfiguration and giving us some detail of what he understood to happen. And that is that he received honor and glory from the Father. Honor can sort of generally mean like a sense of respect or of like a heightened sense of authority or something like that. But I think the real key word there is that second one. It's glory. And glory is like this celestial embodiment. That Jesus wasn't just a human. To this point in Jesus' ministry, Peter, James, John, watching this, Jesus is a great teacher. They even call him Rabbi, which means teacher. And they have a sense that he is the Messiah, the one sent by God. But to see him as the Son of God, the second person of the Holy Trinity, that wasn't really a category they had yet. And then to see the glory of God emulate or radiate from him, his celestial embodiment, his divine nature shining through. This was new. This was something they hadn't seen before. They saw Jesus every day. And they were never terrified before Jesus. But when his divine nature was revealed, they became scared because they were in the presence of the glory. And not just any glory, but he received this glory from the majestic glory, Peter says. He's reflecting on God proper, God the Father, God eternal, God apart from all things, God holy and honorable and glorious. And that is the ultimate glory, not just some angel, not just some divine being, but the glory of the Almighty Creator of all things, radiating from Jesus. And I would definitely agree then with their stance here that was something to fear. As sinful human beings, as finite human beings who are limited in our nature, as weak human beings who can't even do the good we know we ought to do at times, that is something to fear, to be in the presence of the majestic glory of the Almighty. Daniel 10, verse 5 and 6, we see sort of a foreshadowing, a looking forward at this moment of transfiguration. It's not really a looking forward at the moment of transfiguration. It's sort of like a little picture of this drug all the way back into Old Testament times. And Daniel's having a vision here, and it says, "I looked up, and there was a man dressed in linen." And that word linen would be like the whitest cloth that you could get in the time. And he had a belt of gold from Uphaz around his waist. So he's very decorated. His body was like beryl. Look at this. His face like the brilliance of lightning. That's descriptive, isn't it? And you go, well, this is obviously all metaphorical. But I mean, if you read it, it's like up to this point, he's dressed in super white clothes. He's got a big gold wrestling belt on. And he's got a great tan. His body was like beryl. And his face like the brilliance of lightning. Now I'm not seeing this actually super metaphorical here. I think that what Daniel was seeing was the glory of God radiating from this man. It goes on, his eyes like flaming torches. He's trying to explain what he's seeing, that though this is a human, that the glory of God radiates through him from his skin and out of his eyes like flaming torches. His arms and feet like the gleam of polished bronze. There's something about this guy that Daniel is seeing in his vision, that even his skin has a sheen to it, like polished bronze, that light is emulating and coming from him, and the sound of his words are like the sound of a multitude. He is the booming voice of God. And so the Transfiguration is when Jesus appeared before his disciples in his eternal glory. And we don't read this as metaphorical. When it says that the glory radiated from him, that's what we're seeing here. This is what the Peter is describing